Hello. Hey, Rain, what's going on? Sorry, I'm a little unorganized. The whole. Actually, can you even hear me? I hope you can. I hope you can hear me. I wonder. Okay, please let me know if you can hear me and that the audio is acceptable. And then we'll get stuck right into it. Oh, thank you for the live and the love. Oh, I'll give them both. Don't worry about it. Dean. My apologies. I'm going to mess up a lot of names tonight. Let me know if you can hear me, please, as well, because I don't. It's. I'm somewhat new to this, so I'd love a little bit of help. Can you hear me? Have we got anyone in the chat that can help me out? Please. If that's... Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me? I'm just posting it out to the old Twitter, and then we'll get stuck into it. Fantastic. Thank you very much for letting me know that. I'm trying this live stream stuff out. Come hang out. Little behind the scenes here for you all. A little bit of the social media stuff. Beautiful. Thank you, Rain. Should be fun. Cool. Okie dokie. Alrighty. Shall we get stuck into it? Alright. Yeah, I've got to get used to drawing and talking again. So my plans for this are to start doing YouTube, basically. So this is my first, well, not my first, but a little step towards doing that. Just sort of biting the bullet and going for it. So let's have some fun here, shall we? And yeah, feel free to shit, I should say, like, ask questions as we go. I'll always be checking back in chat. can I pin something in chat? I don't know. I'll just do it in the description, I guess. Free to ask any questions. And I can pin the message. Cool. All right, I'll just do that as well. Feel free to ask any questions. And let's pin that one. All right. It is currently 10:54 p.m. here in Adelaide, Australia. And I'm a little bit tired, but I want to get this going, and if I don't do it now, I will never do it. So just got to bite the bullet and get stuck into it. All right. So here you can see I've had some fun taking some reference photos. So this is going to be another one. I don't know if anyone's seen the VR versus reality sort of idea that I had kind of recently-ish, maybe like a couple of weeks ago. This is my new take on it, or a different idea. So I'm going to have this girl like scared of some creature. This is just an idea. This can all change. But yeah, she's going to be scared. And then there's going to be one where she's just like loving it. So she's just super sort of confident and just about to mess some shit up. And yeah, so this is going to be the VR person, and this is going to be the reality. So let's continue. All right, so here I'm just kind of, this is very early stages, so I haven't recorded any of this. Oh, actually, good reminder, start recording. Phil 2G. Oh, maybe a bit quiet. Legend. Thanks, mate. How's this? Is that better? Let me know. Oh, it's Francis. Wait, is this Francis? Phil Fleet. Oh, of course it is. FLE. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Yeah, what's going on, man? Oh shit. Yeah, how's this one sounding? I'm also going to be I've got a social post for Make Now Think Later to be posted at some stage tonight. Azadine, can you give us tips? Oh my goodness, there's multiple Francises. Franci. Jeez, it's getting confusing. Hey, Gal. Oh, Gal, how you doing? I recognize you from the from Instagram in the comments. Thanks for popping by. Can you give us some tips on how to improve line quality? Certainly can. That's sort of, this is more rough, kind of a little bit on the rougher side at the moment. So one of my biggest tips, I guess, would be to get a bunch of reference. I mean, that's really going to be a lot of my tips for particular styles and that kind of stuff. But do we have any line work? So here, for example, check out this. So I believe this is TB Choi, I think. Yes, TB Choi. So what I would do, say if I wanted to have some of this line quality, right? I would try and break things down and reverse engineer the decisions that she's making and why she's making them. So that could be a good way of doing the line work in this one, for example, because I'm thinking about streaming this whole process. So that could be something cool. So maybe we'll try and do something like this line work, because she does very specific things, right? So for example, you can see she puts shadows in very specific places. Right? So she's got like a tiny bit of a shadow here. She has like, but it's very opaque and it's very like, what's the word? It's very defined. Like there's no questions about it. That's a shadow. So there's shadow here. There's sort of thinner shadows in here. Shadows in the sort of wrist with the sleeve. And yeah, that's sort of one hallmark of TB Choi. She doesn't do it too much in this one. But yeah, we could sort of explore the line work as we go. Magdiel, how you doing? My apologies for names. It's yeah. I'm just going to apologize for names when I say them, because I'm going to get them wrong. So let's get stuck into this, shall we? We got some people coming through. This is cool. Alrighty. So the idea, I want to capture more emotion here, right? Because I think one thing I'm finding is I get to a certain stage, like I'm not sure if any of you have seen the Travis Barker one that I did recently, like the drummer guy. I got to a certain stage with that where it was cool, but like probably like 3/4 of the way through, it just felt really stiff. And there was a great comment on that one saying that it looked like his body was playing the drums, but his face was playing the piano. So there was a little bit of a mismatch there. So with this one, I want to try and capture all the emotion up front with the sketch and the sort of looseness that we've got going on here. So then as we progress, it's going to make the whole thing a lot easier. Which brushes do I use? Knew that one was coming. That's but thank you for the question, Rocky. So I'm basically going to use, because I want to sort of use brushes that anyone can sort of pick up. So I've got Ahmed Aldori's brush set here. He may have updated this on his Gumroad, but I'm pretty much just going to use what he's got here. And if I do use any different ones, then I'll mention that. But really, I'm going to use the hard elliptical, right? For the sketching, at least at the moment. And then the soft round, probably. And then we might do some textured stuff with some other things. And I might even tweak the brushes as well, which could be cool to sort of show how I go about doing that. Voon, hey, how you doing? Thank you very much for stopping by. I hope we'll have some fun tonight. And yeah, make some progress with this one. Have we got are people sort of drawing along? Have they got this going on in the background? So you see there's sort of a taper to the strokes here as well. Like this is all pen pressure. And I kind of like, let's go to the brush settings. So we've got the shape dynamics here. So it gives a little bit of a taper. And the transfer, as I get up, progress further with the line work, I'll actually move the minimum a little bit higher, because I want to be more defined with my stroke, with my what you call it, with my lines, right? You see how it's more of a dark line here versus having a lot of variation between the strokes. Here, it sort of acts more like a brush pen kind of thing. Mind you, I've never actually used a brush pen. I'm very digital. But what I'd imagine a brush pen would be like. So that's sort of what I'm thinking about with that kind of thing. All right, so let's continue to have a play around with this idea. And forgive my if I'm doing a bit of coughing or a little bit of clear in my throat, because I'm just sort of only just getting over a cold. So, alrighty. So just to give you an idea of where I sort of was at and how rough the initial sketch was, this right here, check that out. I mean, it's kind of, is that gesture? I don't know. It might be classified as gesture, but it was just sort of getting down a real quick, just something onto the screen. Then I sort of slowly started to build on top of that and on top of that. And if you've seen any of my time lapses, you'll have seen how many times I go over and go over and go over this sort of stuff. Right, so let's get back to me as my reference. Why don't you upload your live streams? Because I haven't done one on YouTube before. And Twitch, I did one other live stream and then it deleted. I think they delete after a certain amount of time. So this is the start, essentially, of keeping these up here. So if you learn something from this one, which I hope you do, you'll be able to sort of come back and refer to it. Okay, so I'm thinking kind of, I don't know, maybe like an octopusy sort of like squiddy sort of kind of thing here. I don't know, it's just and I know exactly who I'm going to get reference for this octopus stuff. There's a guy called Sergey Biriolt or Biriolt. Oof, his work, man, phenomenal. So we'll be having some fun there. How do you choose where to make the line thinner or thicker? That's a very good question. So it's kind of, it's down to a feel at the moment, but if I was to put it in to more of a structured way of thinking, let's say I'm just going to duplicate this layer and merge them all together. All right, so again, it's looking at artists that I like line work wise. But if I was going to do, let's throw this on top. So thicker lines, generally speaking, so this is all in generalities, there's no right or wrong here. But what I like to do is the objects that are in front, draw the outline a little bit thicker than the ones at the back, if that makes sense. All right, where there's overlapping objects, the one in front a little bit thicker. Where there's shadow, all right, so say she's kind of hugging her leg here, there'd be like a shadow here. If you didn't want to do a cast shadow, I might just do a little bit of a thicker line, all right, to indicate that there's some sort of contact there. Where I do thinner lines is oftentimes inside an object. So for example, this hand. So you see how we've got the outline. So these hands are like got a lot of work to do on these hands. But okay, say we've got that dark line of that sort of forefinger. I would do thinner lines inside, kind of like construction-y lines kind of thing. Like they just help show a little bit of form, and they actually help me when it comes to rendering as well. So where's a better example of that? Let's say here on the like VR mask, right? If I'm going to do the VR mask, let's just say we sort of, it's in front of the face, so let's do it a little bit darker outline. Let's knock this back a tad. Okay, so then I might say, okay, there's some sort of cut lines in here, or sort of where the plastic is. That's where I might, or where like a corner is. So more like descriptive lines, I guess, that's inside the object. And then you can get even more sort of tricky with it, where you've got some of these internal lines here. You might want to think about them with the same logic. Like, for example, if these were lenses, let's say, and then you've got the lenses like that, so it sort of brings them into 3 dimensions. This front edge here might benefit from being a little bit darker. Right? So it gives it a little bit more depth, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot to it, but that's kind of where I'm at with it at the moment. That sort of like high level logic of it, and it's all subject to change at any time. Like, basically anything I say, it's like, this is what I've found out so far, or what I'm sort of experimenting with at the moment. There is no right or wrong. Love the ref pick, by the way. Thank you. That was a lucky shot, that one, to get me midair. So, because I really wanted to push the feeling of, oh shit, I don't like the situation that I'm in. All right, but this is dangerous right here, because I don't think I've figured out the full pose just yet. And then you can see how easy it is to like zoom right in and sort of get nitty gritty with all the fun line work and sort of getting things looking nice. I mean, I can always erase it after, it's fine. But at this stage, I still think there needs to be a couple more layers over the top, sort of refining, particularly some of this area here, because this could become pretty messy or unclear, I guess I should say, pretty quickly. So we've got this, like, for example, what I'm thinking about here. So I'm just getting used to talking while I'm drawing. So forgive me if it sounds like a bunch of nonsense, but this is what I'm thinking about. We've got this foot here and this foot here, right? Notice how they're kind of the same size, but if we want to push the perspective a little bit, this foot would be a little bit smaller, right? Because we've got this leg is kind of going back. I'd imagine it would go back into space like this, right? Like a cylinder. This one is going way back into space. All right, so we've imagined the cylinder of the leg. All right, so there's something off there. All right, so we've got to figure that out. And then this bottom half of this leg is kind of coming back towards us in a way, which kind of works. Like, we can figure this out. It's all these are all problem, like, it's like a puzzle that we're making ourselves, which is what I find very, very fun. Tissue. Do you draw traditional art too? I have done in the past. I haven't for quite a long time. This is just so convenient, I guess. And I just really enjoy it. But a lot of the stuff I'm doing here is like grounded in principles that can be used across any sort of medium, I guess. Like this idea of 3D space, if I was using a pencil, paintbrush, digital paintbrush, whatever, it's all the same. I'd be thinking about the same thing. How you get there is just a little bit different. All right, so thinking about this leg. See how we got some sort of dimension starting to happen here. I don't know if you can hear the music as well. So I've got a bit of music, so it's not just silence. Tips on how to exaggerate references for better storytelling. Try and think about, I don't know. To be perfectly honest, I was just like, how can I look as scared as possible? And also like, I guess the silhouette as well. Like if I was just like scared, like if I jumped and I was all just bundled up in like a ball, the silhouette there isn't super clear, right? But here I'm trying to like make, and you see how I've pushed it, like the silhouette here on my legs, it's a little bit ambiguous. If you sort of squint your eyes, it's kind of just like two legs kind of together. This is where I wanted to really separate, push the leg up, which I wouldn't be flexible enough to do that, and sort of bring it back down. So I guess it's really just trying to embody the feeling that you're trying to convey when you, and use a timer on your camera as well. That'd be a good idea. But I've only just started to do this, to be honest, is sort of take photos of myself in hopes of actually saving a bit of time and getting the reference that I'm after. As an artist, can we use someone else's pic for our ref? Yeah, I guess so. Right, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with using anyone else's photo as long as you've sort of got it legally and you change it, or it is actually referenced. You're not just sort of copying it one-to-one and then say, and then not mentioning the photographer or that kind of stuff. Like it's kind of I don't know. I think it's kind of, you know what the good thing to do is, like if you're going to use reference and it's pretty close to the photograph, if you can find the photographer and you're going to post it online, sometimes it's hard to actually find the photographer because it was done through an agency or whatever. But if you can, try and find it. But yeah, there's nothing wrong, I don't think, with using other people's photos for reference. How do you make those time lapses? So what I actually do, if I'm in Procreate, it creates it itself, right? Which is super, super handy. But if I'm in Photoshop, what I'll do is I'll go Window, Arrange, New Window, right? Then that window will be off to the side. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll use screen recording software to just record that part of the screen. So the flipping, like if I'm flipping things or if I'm sort of zooming in and out, that window doesn't do that. So it just stays there and it just sort of lays the lines as I lay the lines down, which is actually really helpful. So that's how I go about doing the time lapses. Bloody big file sizes though. Tell you what, that's going to be a big expense of mine, is freaking hard drives. But yeah, just try it here. I'm trying to loosely understand the 3D forms. Do you know any good alternative softwares for Photoshop to draw on? The main ones I use are Photoshop and Procreate. I mean, you can use Critter as well, Clip Studio. Those are the ones that I've heard of that are pretty popular, but I don't have anywhere near the understanding of how they work. I'd imagine they work pretty similarly with their own sort of advantages and disadvantages and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, if you want to know a free one, Critter is a good alternative as well. Prathav. Oh, Prathav. What's happening, man? This man sort of, so created a podcast that some of you might have heard of, basically around the whole content creation side of things. And because I obviously like documenting what I do, I thought it would be fun to actually document the sort of business side of content creation. And me and my really good mate, Francis, we do a podcast on sort of building audiences and making a living from it, and content and how we think about content, and really just sharing our experiments. Like if you imagine how I share my stuff with drawing, that's where I'd like to see it for both of us, is just go on nitty gritty, like leave nothing, no stone unturned, just this is what we've done, this is how we've done it, and these are the results. But yeah, Prathav, our latest episode, which is just released tonight, I went over all the numbers for the recent tutorial that I released. So the whole story of how it came to be, the recent numbers of sort of how much I was able to make off of it, because I think that's important, to showing what's possible. Like, it wasn't life changing, but it was a decent amount. So I recommend checking that episode out. It's pretty. I think there's a lot of value in there, if not only from the standpoint of if you're looking to sort of build an audience and then figure out, I don't know, the best way to create a product that you're proud of, or it was really like a tester product, just to get something out into the market without sounding too businessy. Yeah, worth checking out. It's called Make Now, Think Later, and you can get it with the link in my bio. I think it's in my bio. Yeah, it should be in my bio. But yeah, Prathav was the one that asked the question. So thank you, Prathav, for getting me out of my comfort zone, because it's not for some reason, it's not a usual thing to talk about money, which I don't think it should be that way necessarily. So I'm trying to go out of my comfort zone a little bit. And yeah, it's been a bloody blast, because it's all been up in there, all my thoughts around content creation and social media and building audiences and blah blah blah. And it's good to finally just like talk and share the experiments and bits and pieces, and yeah, it's been good fun. Tissue, am I married? No, I'm not married, but I've got a wonderful partner that I've been with for a very long time. Any tips on how to make money as a newbie artist? Well, it's a very broad sort of question, I guess. It depends what you like doing, right? I mean, you could go the freelance route. You could start building up your portfolio to go for jobs in a studio, that sort of stuff. I haven't had much experience, to be honest, as a newbie artist sort of selling, because this for a very long time wasn't my my full-time gig. This was really just a hobby of just getting better for the fun of it, really. So yeah, I honestly wouldn't have fantastic advice. It'll just be guesses, you know what I mean, or sort of thoughts, not based in anything that I've done myself. So yeah, sorry I couldn't be of more help there. All right, so here I'm just sort of trying to figure out, this here is standing out to me as an issue, right? Because it's not super clear what's going on. Like the shoulder feels right, like in the right place, but there's connection here between the arm and the rest of the body. Let's think about, and this is where like a little bit of anatomy knowledge can come in handy, particularly if you're wanting to get like more 3D form sort of working. Totally get your point. Really appreciate your transparency. Yeah, of course, man. I mean, it's sort of easier, at least for me, to be transparent. But yeah, I think that's also the way that personally, I think a lot of artists should be thinking about, is building their audience up and their own communities, and figuring out how not to be so necessarily reliant, I guess, on whether it be clients or studios or that kind of stuff. But I mean, for me, I'm an entrepreneur-y, businessy sort of mindset. I hate those words, like the entrepreneur. I don't know, for whatever reason, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies. But that's my default mode, is sort of figure out ways to work for yourself. Yeah, I don't know about the hair either. But this is all just exploration at the moment, figuring out, okay, I don't want it to look too gaunt either, like too angular, I guess. She might end up looking really angular, who knows. We will see. I love those pointy elbows for some reason. I don't know why. I know they're saying something, maybe. Will you do more live streams here or on Twitch? I'm thinking here, to be perfectly honest, because I'm looking to get into YouTube, and the search algorithm, like from a pure business standpoint and like reach standpoint, there's no real search on Twitch or discoverability. Whereas here, I can upload this video, I can chop it up, I can then put it on the channel, and it's all in one spot. So I reckon YouTube is the streaming way to go. At least for the foreseeable future. That can all change. I'm not sort of opposed to swapping and changing, whatever makes more sense. Alright, so we fix that perspective a little bit so that foot goes back in space a little bit more. Oh, what did I just do? Okay, there we go. Now, this mouth is another tricky one. So this whole area could become pretty problematic. So let's see how we can clear this up. Can we push the mouth even more to show more of an expression? All right, because even though this is kind of embarrassing. Whoa, where did everything go? Uh-oh. Are we back? And we're back. So if I zoom in to my face, you can see there's a lot of expression in the eyes that we're not getting here because she's in VR land. So we've got to do as much as we can with the body and the mouth to get some expression going. Like I want her kind of to be disgusted, like this is like, get away. This is not where I want to be right now. Where here is, I don't know, I've got a weird top lip thing going on here. I don't know what's going on there, but like I want it even more. And this is where I might actually, if I wasn't on stream, I would like get reference of my own face and sort of take photos. And sort of if I want a particular mouth pose, I guess you could say, we could put that on there. Yeah, I was looking at that, doing both to Twitch and YouTube. But I think I was looking at StreamYard, I think. I think that's the one. And then it was paid. And for whatever reason, I was just like, ah, it's just a blocker. Another thing that I'd be like, oh, I should wait until I could do it for both. It would probably make sense to go on both. What I would love is to have everything set up so I could go live on like Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube. That'd be sick. But I don't know. I think I'd have to have a separate phone, like doing something. I don't know. All right, so I've got to figure out, okay, would we see her nose? Because this VR headset has got some depth to it, right? So if we block that out. So, okay. This is not clear. Maybe we could give her more of that kind of nose. So it gives it direction, but then it kind of anthropomorphizes. It's definitely not a word, but anthropomorphizes the kind of eyes on here. If I kind of put a nose there, if you know what I mean. So maybe the nose wouldn't be seen. She might have like a smaller nose back in there somewhere. And this is where I would actually like to understand where her eyes are. So this is a good opportunity maybe to even take back this sort of the thinking on this layer. Maybe throw another layer in between and try and figure out, okay, where on earth are her eyes going to be? Right, so let's just maybe take that away. And how big are her eyes going to be? And this is where I should be checking out some reference, right? So we've got TV Choi there. We've got only a few bits of reference here at the moment. If we want to go more anime style, I love this look. That looks really cool. But unfortunately, I'm not going to see the eyes on this one. But we will be seeing the eyes on the VR version, or the actual character. So say if we were going to show the eyes, for example, the bad thing is happening here, or the thing that she's focused on. So I'm always thinking about the eyes as spheres. Pretty much always, right? So if you think about the eye, whatever it is, the iris sort of directed at that thing. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. Knowing that the eyelids and how it fits in the eye socket is going to cover up. So this would actually be more spherical if we were like looking at X-ray view. And this eye would potentially sort of be sitting somewhat close together. Like, or the illusion of looking close together. But here I'm kind of imagining where her eyes might be, and there's going to be some definite trial and error to this. And these are definitely not feeling quite right. That's okay. let's just do a big start again. All right, let's think about this. Edge of the eye there. The brow there coming up. So this is where like the working out and not just throwing a center line of the head just for the sake of it. Because I see a lot of this. Well, I used to think, like a lot of the stuff I used to do, I was like, okay, here's the head, and let's just throw a line down because I see everyone else throwing a line down there. And then I throw another line here because I see everyone else throwing these lines down here. And then I'll start sort of going on and adding the features on top. But what I'm actually thinking about here are the contours of the face. All right, where is this center line going to meet the nose? Because we're looking down at the head, it's sort of like angled down. So say this nose could be sitting around about there. The eye might be a little back a little bit further. Right now we use these center lines to kind of guide us. We're making our own guidelines. Let's throw that sort of direction. And there's a tendency that I used to have, or I still do, it's still a kind of tendency, is to show more of this other eye than is needed. All right, so see how that's feeling a little bit more 3D? Just with that little center line. All right. Cleaning it up a tad. Right, I'm going to imagine like her ears would be back here maybe. See, it's all in context. Eyebrows super high because she's scared shitless. Is it possible that they enable automatic subtitles? Jose. Let me see. Settings, playback speed. I'm not sure how to do that. I'll keep that in mind for future streams. All right. So now I'm thinking about the eyelids. This is just good practice as well. These eyes I'm not going to see. All right. But it sort of just gives me an idea. Maybe even building the character for the sort of VR version of her. How can we even make her look more terrified? Smaller irises, yeah. Cool. This head needs a little bit more cranium at the back. Okay. It's funny, I was doing some test recordings earlier and I just had the center webcam on and just looking at myself drawing is weird. Some of the faces I was pulling that I didn't even realize was pretty funny. You might even see me as I'm trying to do this facial expression here. I'll end up doing it myself just out of habit. Now, one thing as well I've found with the eyes, the power of like the lower lid. That can really convey a lot of emotion. Even if it's like even more disgusted. See how that does a little bit more? To sort of bring a little bit more emotion in there. That's exactly right, Gal. That's my conclusion as well. If you're not making the expression, are you even drawing? I don't think so. You're a fraud. No, I'm joking. Or am I? I don't know. Right, it's even when placing the eyes, I'm thinking a lot about this area, like the inner sort of area. Like how is everything connected? It's kind of like, as I said, it's like a puzzle piece. Puzzle pieces that we're trying to put together and make ourselves. So how does this inner part of the eye fit in and sort of connect? And I think I've got to work on being a bit faster, I think, with maybe some of these decisions. But I'm working on it. I'm going to get there. And I think the eyebrows are way too high. Like her face is kind of looking a little bit wacky. So one thing I like to do as well, use the lasso tool and just move stuff about. Nothing wrong with that. And we can also figure out where the side of this head is. Now, one of the things I've got to keep in mind with, say, like an open mouth, the jaw, it hinges, and when it hinges, right, do I have my, give me 2 seconds. All right, anatomy lesson. Oh. So, old mate here, he's seen better days, but the same principles apply. So you'll notice when the jaw hinges, it goes quite, like it hinges down. It doesn't go straight down like that. It kind of hinges back, right? And particularly if we're trying to mimic a similar kind of angle, that chin is going to be pushed quite the way back, right? So that's something that I'm keeping in mind there. Hopefully that illustrates the point. Hopefully you could have heard me because I was so far away from the mic, but Yeah, hopefully that illustrates the point of what I'm thinking about. Okay, so now I'm thinking about the connection to the eyes here. So this comes down, so this is kind of the thing I'm thinking about, this little line in here. Okay, let's take a look at this mouth. So we know that the jaw is going to be further back. Right, so let's see how we can... So this is where center lines can come in really, really handy. All right, so I'm imagining that's the bottom of the nose, right? If this is like an X-ray view coming through, bottom of the nose, center line to the lip. Let's say that it's being pushed back. This is looking kind of funky at the moment, but it will. Rocky, what color palette do you use the most? I don't know how to answer that really. There's no particular color palette per se that I use. I try and think about the materials first. What color are the materials? And then the lighting. So how is the light going to affect these materials? And I can be informed by a bunch of different things, like the reference, other reference that I like the look of, yeah, I can be influenced with color, like by nature, like all sorts of stuff, right? There's no real palette that I like to use. It's all to do with sort of the local color, like just the straight up color of the materials, and then how the light and what lighting setup I want to use, and then thinking about how that is going to look. I'm thinking like maybe like sort of complementary sort of stuff as well, like my go-to, I guess you could say, is like a warmer light, like key light, and maybe like a cooler shadow, but it's all relative, right? And I mean, when we get to the rendering of this one, we can go over that sort of stuff. Okay. Jay, how you doing? How long on average do you spend on finishing a fully rendered, like finished painting? It really depends. It actually depends a lot on this stage. The rendering is something that I can just like not switch off, but it's a little bit more relaxing once you've got all this down. So if the painting's gone well and or the drawing's gone well, and it's all sort of clicking and it's all sort of making sense and looking good. It can be anywhere from knocking it out. It depends how loose I want to be as well. But say, for example, the Travis Barker one that I just finished, that was maybe like 15 odd hours, 15, maybe 20 hours, something like that, all up. But over like multiple sessions and multiple days and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it takes a little time, especially when you go and change stuff halfway through. Yeah, definitely. The sketching is the longest part, but it's the part that I oftentimes used to just be like, yeah, let's get it over and done with. I want to chuck some color on this stuff ASAP. And that really screwed me a lot of the times. See how I move the eyes back a little bit. But I did it thinking about the 3D-ness of the face. Love your style, though. Probably my favorite artist currently. Oh, mate, that honestly means a lot. Thank you very much. And I'm also thinking about doing some more 3D stuff as well. I'd like to start really kind of like diversifying my skill set, I guess. Like imagine it, like if I can do these concepts and also sort of share this whole journey along the way as well of figuring out sculpting, even animation and that sort of stuff. That would be pretty cool, I reckon. Have you ever thought about dabbling in NFTs? Yeah, look, it's crossed my mind, but it's another whole world to kind of learn about. And if I was ever going to do anything like that, it would have to be more than an image. Like some people do NFTs like in a cool kind of way where it's like, yeah, this is like there's some like real value here and real like, instead of it just being like, oh, this image looks cool or this animation looks cool or whatever. Like I could maybe, I don't know, I honestly don't know. Like I've had a couple of ideas, but nothing that I've ever thought of actually pulling the trigger on and executing on. So, but it's an interesting space, and if done right, it could be pretty cool. Just like anything, though, right? When you start doing 3D stuff, about 100% I will do, Francis. I remember your DM mentioning that, so I'll definitely hit you up. Yeah, 100%, Jay. There's got to be something behind it. And I think this is also cool, like doing these streams, is to, because I get stuck in looking at a bunch of time lapses, right? A whole bunch of time lapses. And then I get almost tricked or conditioned into like, oh, this is how fast I've got to draw. Like, logically knowing that that's not the case. But I think sort of showing how slowly I'm actually thinking about things and how things are developing could be really helpful for myself and anyone that wants to watch as well. So here's another tricky part of the eye sockets. You see, like I'm trying to get dimension in here, right? Overlaps. This eyeball, like how I said, the eyeball, it's a pretty big eyeball, right? So it might actually even be sitting somewhere like there, right? In the eye sockets kind of thing. But like that's what I'm thinking about. Like if you, I remember Kim Jong-gi said something like absolutely awesome. He was like, if only people could see the imaginary lines that I see. And it's like, man, that would be awesome. Because I reckon you'd see lines like shooting off everywhere, like it almost X-ray view of everything. But what you see is just the line that he puts down. No way am I comparing myself to Kim Jong-gi, by the way. That is how it came across. It just sort of how I was just thinking about the X-ray-ness of the eyes. Sayek, how you doing, man? Good to see you. We'll see that you're here, not see you. I'm currently trying to learn Unreal Engine. I'm confident in Blender as of now at scene building, but want to branch out to sculpting and then creating in Unreal. Yeah, man, like that sounds awesome. Like I would love to like start, because once you can figure out sculpting and stuff, it's then what it's like. What do you want to do with it? It's kind of like figuring out drawing. Not that I've figured out drawing, but it is just a whole nother like fun world of, okay, do you want to 3D print them? Do you want to throw them into Unreal Engine and animate them? Or throw them in a game? Or create animations yourself with it? Like, there's just so much stuff you can do. Like this is realistically like the whole concepting side is just one piece of a very big puzzle that I would love to try and figure out piece by piece and share the whole process, just like I'm doing with my concept art, character designy sort of stuff. And yeah, I reckon that'd be pretty fun. Endless possibilities, 100%, Jay, 100%. And then like I could make like a sculpt of myself and then have it as like my, you know how that you have those like animated stream people. I could like, instead of me talking here, I could be talking, but like my character could be talking and stuff like that. That'd be sick. That'd be really, really cool. Come on, Photoshop. Thank you. Yeah, see, like this is slowly coming together. I don't even know if I like the face of this one yet, but it's got dimension. It has some logic to it, which I'm after. That's like sort of checklist number one. Does it not look absolutely out of place? If yes, cool, continue. Now, this is where this shoulder issue is going to come in. So we've got the head here. Might even like push up against a cheek or something. I don't know. We can figure that out later. Let's clean up some of these lines. I mean, my current job is a stream designer at Elgato, a branch of Corsair, but after doing it for so many years now, there is so much more I want to do. Yeah, man. Like, so what's your sort of, what's that so much more? What does that look like for you? Like, do you want to get into games, make your own IP? Like, there's honestly kind of a sport for choice nowadays of what we can do. which is also a curse because there's a lot to learn, but that's also a blessing. So it's just sort of what's to think about. Alright, so this is, yeah, it's got some dimension. There's something going on with the cheeks here. But, I don't know. We can maybe figure that out later. I don't know. I think characters, world building, trailers, animation, etc., even just artwork in general, building my own brand. Yeah, man. I reckon that's a really fun place to explore. Building your own stuff. That's where sort of I'm heading. Because all the tools are out there now to do anything you want. Now this arm is going to be a weird one. Let's see if we can figure it out. So we've got, let's say we put like a tongue in there and just put some kind of, okay, there's the gums. Okay. So 3D mode, X-ray vision. I mean, I've taken all this time to bloody do the face. I could do a futuristic see-through VR thing, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Not making any promises. But let's do some. Let's just call this one X-ray to figure out this anatomy of the head. And how she's like, get the fuck away from me. So the ear, let's say the ear's going to be sort of back here. You know what? I'll end this stream. I'll go to sleep. I'll wake up and I'll have a look at it and be like, oh, this is all wrong. It's all wrong, but that's part of it as well, right? So if I'm get away. Is that? I mean, it's a character, so it can go up further. But what I think about is the sternum, right? So where that sternum sort of joins. Let's say we think about this this body as a whole. I think the head's a little bit too big as well, potentially. Actually, I think that is a big issue. Let's nick off this X-ray just for the moment. Let's grab the head. No, not that one. The amount of times I grabbed the wrong layer, I tell you what. So let's scale it down just a ton. Around a bit. That feels a little bit better, I think. Let's get rid of that. Let's add that X-ray layer on top. Sayek. Please let me know if I'm saying that right, Sayek, because I recognize you from the DMs and the comments, and you've been sort of supporting me for a very long time, and I've not actually said your name out loud. So Sayek. May I ask questions about your programming skills? Well, you good at art plus many things. I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't call myself a good programmer, by any means. It's a passion of mine. I really enjoy it. So I guess before this whole Instagram stuff, my main gig was working on my own startup software company as a developer and sort of user interface, user experience designer. So my main sort of program or language of choice was JavaScript. Dabbled in Swift and iOS sort of development. That's what our main app was actually made from, was sort of Swift. But really it's mainly web, JavaScript and web. And yeah, I guess, yeah, what would you like to ask? Ask away. Around the programming stuff. Feel free, ask me anything. Ask me about the social media stuff, the business side of stuff. Like this whole, like I want this to be more like, yeah, not so like this is how to do this. Like this is not like a tutorial. This is like, let's just draw, let's figure out. You can hear me, my thoughts as I go, and yeah, just ask whatever questions you want. I don't give a shit. This VR versus reality is a really fun concept. Glad you're making more variations. Yeah, man, I think it's pretty cool. I've got a bunch of ideas, which could maybe become prints one day or something like that. It could be cool to have some fun with it. I'm currently studying character design by myself, and there's so much to learn. I find myself overwhelmed and end up avoiding drawing completely. Do you have a tip how to tackle it? Don't avoid drawing completely. Number one. I guess for me with learning any skill, right? This is all just my experience and my 2 cents. So take it or leave it, whatever you want. If you're having trouble getting into the mode or getting into the habit of doing something, start very, very small, right? It would also be a good idea to have an idea like of where you want to go. Like if you want to do more like a character design of particular, like a particular style, or apply for a particular studio or something along those lines, that could be helpful. But let's say you've got all that figured out and you're like, okay, I want to do this kind of art and this kind of character and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Start very, very small. Okay. If very, very small is better than not doing it at all, right? In my view. So what you've got to, in my opinion, get building is the art habit. So start very small, 5 minutes a day, right? If you stop drawing completely, get some reference, get really inspired by some artists that you enjoy, and go for it. 5 minutes. And even for the first week, do no more than 5 minutes, right? Or do more than 5 minutes, whatever you want to do. But the win or the success there is that you did it. You're not kind of focused on building the results of the actual work that you're doing. You're trying to build that habit. And then once it gets really easy to do those 5 minutes, and you'll probably end up doing more than 5 minutes, but at the minimum 5 minutes, then week by week, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, right? Then space it out to an hour. Getting into the drawing habit, it's sort of, you need that momentum, I think. And that's honestly how this whole Instagram stuff kicked off for me. Because I was like, all right, I want to get into the drawing habit. Okay, I want to get better as fast as I can. So one of the better ways to do that is sort of hold myself accountable to draw consistently. And really a really good way to get better is actually to share what you know, and it plugs holes very quickly in your knowledge. So then I just started got up in the morning, first thing in the morning, 20 minutes of drawing. If that's all I did in the day, that was a win. Awesome. If I miss a day, who cares? Get back on it the next day. Don't like beat yourself up about not doing it. But yeah, really, honestly, getting back into that habit of the art habit would be my first suggestion, because it can be overwhelming, right? But that's why I said, like, try and figure out your goals in the beginning, or some at least a direction to go in, because they can always change. They're not set in stone. You might find that you try 3D sculpting one day, and you're like, oh, this is the stuff I want to do, and then you go down that route, right? So be flexible with the sort of goals, but yeah, consistency is, I'm a big believer in the sort of consistency, if that makes sense, without sounding too preachy. You do what you want, but if that would be my suggestion, if that makes sense. Thanks, bro. I'm from Indonesia. Waleed, how you doing? Good to have you. This mouth is doing my head in. It was looking good there for a while, and then it looked really, really bad. So, let's see if we can get that. Yes, but you call my name correct. Fantastic, Say. Thank you. You inspired me a lot, and I look up practice drawing from your tutorial. One of my favorite study that I'm so proud of. Oh, fantastic, man! Awesome. That's fantastic. That's really awesome to hear. That you've been finding sort of the tutorials helpful. Favorite study that I'm so proud of is Adam Netflix. Yeah, man. See, this is what I'll do. I'll get stuck on like a mouth or something. And it's normal. It used to frustrate the living shit out of me, but it just happens so many times that it's just like it's just, yeah, it's part of the process. So then I'll just move to another part, give it a break, see if I can make the 3D forms a little bit better. And I hope this isn't too boring. I hope that just listening to the jabber on. Am I going to have to take a photo on stream for reference? I hope not. I bought your Gumtree course. Some great insights in there. Keep up the good work. Thanks so much, Josh. Really appreciate it, mate. Glad you enjoyed it. There needs to be, I think there needs to be some like overlap here. Like whether it's the bottom of the lip sort of going in somewhere, I don't know. This doesn't push it enough, but we'll just start here. Basic shape. Flip the canvas. Always be flipping. Does the lip protrude out maybe? No. I want this really to be like... I've also got to stop zooming in and out. It's probably not a good habit to get into on stream. Oh, this bloody Christmas music we've got going on here. I don't know if you can hear the music, by the way. If someone could give me an indication of if you can actually hear the music, because I've got stream beats on at the moment, and it's gone to Christmassy town. I'm still not sure how to work all this stuff with all this music and getting all the things right, but I'll get there. That'll do. You don't hear the music, bugger. That's annoying. How about now? Tell me if the music's coming through. And we're going to have to draw a skull. We're going to have to go full X-ray. See, this is what I get stuck into, right? I love creating like the 3D shapes and getting really stuck into the sort of structure of things. But it can bog me down sometimes. Do you hear it now? Okay, cool. Maybe a little loud. I don't know. We'll go with that and we'll see see how it is. Let's say that this actually has a skull underneath. Where is that skull going to be? So it's going to be curving back into space there. So that's the top teeth. And then how we're saying this jaw. Someone just hopping onto the stream now is probably like, what the fuck is going on here? That thinking behind it. We can sort of say, okay. Kind of looking a little better, but Hi Ben, can you give tips on painting skin tone and and any objects. I certainly can. I'm kind of in sketch stage at the moment, but I will, it's definitely something I'll be talking about as we go with this one, because I want to make the materials like, the reason why I did like a squid sort of thing here is so I can do some shiny materials, because that's just really fun, like some really like reflective kind of materials, because there's going to be a little bit of reflection of her on here and where whatever the light source is going to be, so that's going to be fun. So we'll have a blast with that, I reckon. And you get this struggle city that I'm going through at the moment. We're entering into ugly town. Awkward stage is upon us. And this is just with the face. Not fantastic, but that's all right. So the teeth and then we see the inside of her mouth. Sort of see some of the gums there. I don't know, it's getting somewhere. What tablet do you use to draw? So this was actually gifted to me by one of my friends who does Twitch streaming, Amber, Paladin Amber. It's the XP Pen Pro 15 something, I think. Not affiliated or anything like that. This was a gift, and yeah, it's working well. It's also a screen on it as well, but I usually just do it like this. Like I've got a iMac up here and I just use it like a normal tablet. I'll just really show their struggle and that some things take time. This is really helping to see that it's actually how it's done. Yeah, this is actually how it's done. It's really not as quick as I would like it to be, but it is what it is, right? Like it's like a fine line with the stylization as well. You can so quickly turn someone like a lot older than you wanted them to. Right, so all right, let's just put a pin in this for now. We know that she needs a scared expression. We can figure that out later. We'll get a bunch of reference. Maybe I'll come back next stream and with myself and a bunch of reference poses. Or I'm just going to keep noodling on it. One of the two things will happen. Rup, can you share your thoughts on this drawing? What are you thinking on your mind? I'm trying to share what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that this face is looking weird at the moment. And I'm trying to make it not look weird. This is feeling a little better-ish. It's feeling, yeah. Okay. And there's sometimes where I get it to a point I was like, I don't want to touch it again. Because if I keep noodling on it, it could mess it up. But that's silly. Okay. Leave it. We'll leave that for now. Let's think about that shoulder that we were talking about before, okay? Let's remove the skull from behind it there. Stop it. Stop noodling. Okay. How do you feel about making critique and paint over videos? I'm open to it. It's really just a time thing. I've really got to figure out the schedule for this kind of content, like the longer form sort of content. I can see that definitely being a part of the part of my content that I'll do. But yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to it. I think that'll be good fun. Okay, let's think about, okay, the chin goes here. There's a skull in the back. Let us throw a neck down. So there's a neck hiding somewhere in here. Flip the canvas. Then there's a scapula, the sort of pit of the neck, let's say. That shoulder's sort of pushing up, right? So, and the scapula can kind of move, right? It's not sort of stuck, like one side can move up and the other can sort of be independent to a certain degree. So I'm playing that up a little bit more. So the scapula is going to come here, let's say. And let's say this is now I'm in dangerous territory right now because I'm getting very structural. And from what I've learnt just over the say past year or so, getting too structural too early isn't a great thing. But it's just helping me out to try and figure out where this shoulder is going to go. So this hand is going to go back in space here. And yeah, let's throw that shoulder in there somewhere like that. So if that's the case, the pec is going to come down here. Sort of rib cage. There's a pelvis in there somewhere. Right, this is going to be all squished. This is going to be stretched. Yeah, it's sort of looking all kind of crazy at the moment. So yeah, this shoulder I think could be. Let's go back to our reference of me, shall we? No, not that one. That's the Say it. Can't wait to see how it turns out. Time to go to sleep now in Thailand. See you, Ben. Good to see you here. Great to see you, Sayek. Thanks for stopping by. You have a fantastic sleep. So this is a lot of the stuff that I'll do. It's just working out. Like I'll just erase this and then go back and try other things, and it's all. Yes, there is kind of a pressure I'm feeling a little bit with being on stream that the thing has to look right, but it's kind of not reality, right? So it is what it is at this stage. Your lesson was purchased by a comrade. Waleed. Your lesson was purchased by Gumrows. Are there any updates at some point? Probably not on that one. I'll probably come out with something new and better, or different and better. Thank you. I've benefited a lot from your teaching, although I do not understand what you're saying in the explanation. I'm not good at English. Sorry, man. Also, now there are errors in what I'm saying because I'm using Google Translator. Yeah, Google Translate is not perfect, but yeah, for like I don't think there's going to be updates to this one. There's going to be new ones that are coming out, that like proper courses, because that's really just a tutorial that was out with a bunch of other stuff in it. But I want to just sort of build on top of it and do better things, give more value, like better explanations, sort of more structured stuff. That was more of really an experiment to just get something out there and get a gauge of what you guys sort of enjoy, and sort of what value you can get out of a sort of walkthrough, if that makes sense. And as you said, you can't understand me, so my apologies. Same here, my English is verse. Is bad. Nah, I understand you. You're doing well. Okay, let's think about this shoulder. This shoulder is doing my head in. So maybe so this is where I break down. This is what I'm thinking. 3D shapes. This is going sort of, if this was like a cylinder, it's going back in space. And this sort of deltoid here attaches onto the upper arm like that. Could work-ish, maybe. Let us see. Can you name your favorite brushes that you use most of the time, like for painting, sketching, and smudging? I mentioned this at the beginning, so I'm using Ahmed Aldori's brush pack, and I've been using the round, or the elliptical, the hard elliptical this whole time. And then I'll just use like a smooth, like airbrush, I guess. Like kind of the one that I'm using for the eraser here. And it depends on the rendering style I'm going for as well. I also really like Max Grecki's brushes as well. Like if you were looking for more like textured brushes. But really the brushes are kind of some of the last things I'm thinking about, to be honest. They're kind of like the cherry on top. And the shoulders coming through here. This hand is in front. Could you mention some fundamentals practice that you think are important for improving? My question to you would be, improving what? What would your main sort of thing that you would like to improve? And that can sort of allow me to give a better answer. Hi, I love your work. Blows my mind every time. Thank you. You're too kind, Dijana. How did you get so good at form? Are there any particular exercise that you would recommend for understanding 3D shapes in space? I would start small. All right. So recognizing 3D shapes comes down to getting used to this guy. If I were to start again without understanding of 3D space, or like how to draw things in 3D, I would become a master, or aim to become a master of this guy. All right, the cube, and sort of bend it to my will. Draw him in any direction that I feel like. At any scale, in any sort of position. All right, getting used to doing that. And how do you do that? You can start, what I even recommend is popping onto Blender, opening Blender or like 3D software. This can help as well. Get a cube, put it in different angles, see the patterns that start to emerge. Like for example, here, this front edge is a good starting point. These outer edges are going to be going off somewhere. This is without like doing all the like perspective-y sort of going to horizon lines and blah, blah, blah. That's important to understand, but I'm not doing any of that thinking when I'm doing these forms in space, right? What I'm doing is, where's the leading edge, right? And getting an intuitive understanding of, through a bunch of practice, of what is then this edge doing, and then this edge. They're going to be going back in space, depending on the lens and how far back and whatever that you're looking at, but just as a high level idea, they're going back in space. So they're going to converge at some point over here maybe, right? Same with this. Same with these two edges. But it all started with that leading edge, or that understanding of that leading edge. Same here. There's this kind of leading edge, or this sort of leading T shape, or this, even this leading corner. What direction do I want it to go in? Cool, okay, so I've nailed that leading edge. Cool. Thinking about these outer edges, where are they going? Okay, if I'm looking at the top of the box, I'm going to see the top. All right, so, and this really just comes down to practice. And once you start to get good at this, I mean, this could be a whole like thing I talk about, like a sort of course sort of thing. But in essence, once you get this, then you can start building on top of things. Okay, so you got the cube. Let's start doing cylinders now. So then it's like, okay, what's a cylinder? Well, it's really just a smoothed out cube or rectangle, let's say, right? That's not perfect perspective, but you get what I'm doing. right? If we sort of draw through, let's say, and I'll just fold this kind of study, I guess, or this practice into your warm-ups, or do it as a standalone study session or whatever. But then we can start to understand that that cylinder there has form. Now, a quick tip that really helped me with cylinders and like ellipses and that kind of stuff is understanding where the minor axis is on the actual ellipse itself. Let me explain. So let's say I want to draw a cylinder that's going in this direction, right? There's going to be two ellipses that we need to draw, right? One's going to be more in perspective and a little bit less stretched, and this one's, you're going to be seeing more of it, just like a rectangle at a similar kind of angle, right? You're going to see more of this, less of this. And again, look at real life, see how that works. But you see how this angle, or this arrow, sorry, you can split that right down the middle of these ellipses. And they're pretty identical on each side, right? You throw the converging lines like we talked about with the cube on the outside, now you've got yourself a cylinder. And it's really like just intimately getting comfortable with manipulating these shapes at will, because these shapes are the foundation of all the anatomy that I'm drawing. If I didn't know how to draw these, I couldn't accurately draw any of the anatomy stuff that I draw. Like, this could seem boring, but I personally enjoy just trying to get better at this stuff all the time. You can even do sort of like X-ray lines or contour lines, let's say. Right? Then you can start building. Then you can say, okay, I've got a cube. Let's say I'm trying to draw a kneecap, for example. Okay, I would simplify the kneecap down to these basic shapes. We've got that cube that we just were doing before. That's the basic shape of that. We've got the front edge of the shin, and let's just simplify it down to like another cube-ish sort of shape that has a bit of a taper. Right? These are all using the same principles of sort of intuitive perspective, if that makes sense. All right, these are converging. Oh, sorry, I'm going to stop zooming in and out. These are converging down here. You've got, and then you can start like shaving things off. So like I think it's the tibia, like this sort of comes in a little bit. Like there's a little bit of a slope either way, and it's a little bit tall, but you get the idea. It's not sort of perfect, but then you can start doing organic shapes and rounding these corners out using your understanding of the 3D shapes, the simplified 3D shapes underneath. And then we can use what we did with the cylinder. Let's create the kneecap. What direction do we want the kneecap to go on? We want it to be facing this way. Let's use that direction of the arrow through the minor axis, right? It's getting a little bit technical, but, and then it's got a little bit of a taper, let's say to this more stylized kneecap, let's say. And then if we want to clean this all up, we can just use our working out as a guide. To then do all the little supporting lines, if that makes sense. So all that working out is what I'm trying to figure out underneath it all, to then come on top and just do the line work. And once you get to a certain point, and I'm still not entirely there yet personally, you don't need to do any of the working out. You can just sort of start imagining things and just going for it, if you know what I mean. So now we've got like a kneecap, right? But it's all based, like this kneecap this is just a cube. This is a cylinder with a taper, and this is like the top of a cube that sort of tapers down kind of into a, like if we, how do I explain this one? Kind of tapers, like if we look at the side view of that cube, right? That's the top, that's the bottom, and then if we turn that ever so slightly, we can say, okay, it just tapers in a little bit. But it's all just manipulating these simple shapes, and then you can come over the top with the organics and use these as like a guide, like the underlying guide. And this is where, I don't know, this is where I have fun with it, because you're just inventing stuff, and it's just a whole bunch of fun, because you're just making it up from nothing. It's just all building blocks. It's really, a lot of it is creating your own building blocks. Sorry, I went off on a little demo sort of thing there. But yeah, hopefully that made sense. Big fan of your work. Do you always use reference for your drawings? Pretty much. Like, I mean, I didn't use reference for this kneecap here, right? Like that's, so it's really depends on what I'm drawing. But yeah, for this particular one, it just helps speed up the process. I could probably get to this point, maybe. But it's like, there's no reason why you wouldn't use reference, I don't think. Oh no, what layer did I do all this on? Oh geez. All right. Well, that's okay, quick fix. Command X, throw that on a new layer. Cool. But yeah, hopefully this made a bit of sense and wasn't too sort of convoluted or too quick that I went through it. I mean, I could talk on this stuff for hours, right? I absolutely love it. That shape reminds me of 3D in Maya. I mean, they're fundamental practice to improve structure, shapes, design that you think are important for improving character design. Well, this all comes into character design as well, right? What I'm doing here. You can use these building blocks and then make these shapes a certain style, or sort of conform them to like a certain shape language, if that makes sense. So at least for me, I like to have structure, like a more 3D feel to my characters. Like even all this wrist, right? This wrist to me is a box. Right, and then you can put little like bumps and bits and pieces over the top. It's almost like having that fundamental understanding of like, I guess, like maybe it's just like an understanding of the 3D forms to then play and experiment and and do stylistic. That's why it's hard to say like how, is there any general practices to get better? If you're trying to get better at style or like a certain style that you like, get a bunch of references of that style and figure out why they're doing the thing that they're doing. If that makes sense. But all this stuff is all foundational, and this is sort of key to doing most of the stuff that I'm doing. So then if I wanted to try a different style, I've got this behind me to then explore whatever style that I feel like doing, if that makes sense. Explain a bit about line variation. I did explain a little bit about line variation earlier on, but I can do that quickly now. Let's get off of that layer. So with the line variation, like here, for example, I did a little bit of what I was talking about before. Here, I can imagine like an imaginary light source that's coming down on top of this kneecap, right? And this darker line indicates kind of like a shadow, if that makes sense. All right. Now, this sort of kneecap, I would, because it's sort of, there's overlaps here, so this is overlapping this, what is it, the tibia, fibula, this is, whatever it is. This is overlapping this and this. I want to make that clear. Like I didn't think too much about it here, but making sure that this is clearly overlapping. Right, that's where it might have a darker line here. Right, so it gives it some foundation, I guess, in the real world. And then you got these like thinner lines, let's say. Oh, have I done it again? Oh, buddy. Hold on. How amateur am I? Okay. Yep. So let's just merge those two. Cool. So then I've got these kind of thinner lines that I'll do to indicate a little bit more about the form. Right? There might be a crease in here. There might be some like edges. There might be a little bit of a divot in here. So they're kind of like the internal lines of the object, if that makes sense. At least how I like doing line work at the moment. Again, this is sort of all subject to my tastes. There's no right or wrong way of doing this sort of stuff. Let's see, this would be like a thinner line to indicate that leading edge of the kneecap, let's say. Same here. This leading edge is a little bit thinner because I just want to indicate that it's there. Right, I'm illustrating, I'm trying to make this clear. It's not sort of artistically beautiful or anything like that, but just the sort of principles behind it. And then the outline might let it be a little bit darker, depending what you're trying to achieve. And then this might even come in a little bit more to indicate that this whole section sort of dips in a little bit. So yeah, but it would be a little bit more nuanced when, well, a little bit more nuanced when we come to sort of the character and cleaning up the line work and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, go for it, Sayak. Yeah, share the link. Go for it. The more the merrier. Awesome. Thank you. We'll get on some cubes right away. Fantastic. So glad to hear it. Cubes are your best friend. They are the essence of everything. Almost everything. Cool. Thanks. No worries, gal. What dimensions do you use for posting on Instagram? Whatever this dimension is, I think. Let's have a squeeze. Canvas size 2160 by 2700. Width and height. There you go. And I just updated that accidentally. Cancel. Yep, so 2160 by 2700. That is the dimensions. Okay, now we went on a bit of a side quest. So let's get back to the main mission of figuring out this bloody character, making sure it all reads correctly. Yeah, this shoulder off a C is going to be a tricky one. Sort of seeing her underarm there. Then we've got to figure out what she's wearing. What's she going to wear? I don't know yet. We can get some reference for that. And this is a cool thing. It's once I kind of unlock this idea of, yeah, everything's just simple 3D shapes. The world's your oyster. You can do absolutely whatever you want. I always like to draw them without hair to begin with as well, because that can kind of sometimes get in the way. Let's flip me around. See if we can get this hand looking somewhat correct-ish. Using these same principles that I've got going on in my head, right? So what we just talked about with the shapes. This is a box here. And I might not copy it verbatim, right? This is just a general idea of what a box will be. So you see that leading edge? Right, if you can imagine that is like the leading edge. Then we're going to turn this into a box. All right, the wrist into a box. The watch actually helps as well. So we can say, okay, that's the top plane, that's the side plane. This is the side plane. That's the that turns into like another side plane. There's like a leading edge there, and then it sort of rounds off. So then it gives us. We use it as a reference. Like we don't have to do the exact same pose, but use the same idea, the same essence of what it is, right? So let's there's the leading edge. Right, there's a controller handle. So I'm going to imagine this is like a VR sort of controller, let's say. Alright, so we've got these three fingers. Looking dimensional enough to begin with. Alright. Now we need to make some room for that forefinger. But that, instead of pointing straight out, it's going to be wrapping around the controller. Right, so you might have that going back in space here. So it looks like she's holding something. Whereas there my finger's going straight out here. Now she's kind of potentially holding something. And again, it's a box. Huh? If you can see that. With a flip. Okay, let's see what we can do. With this wrist here, let's find that leading angle, or that leading edge. We can throw the muscle on there. As you can see, this sort of pushes out because my arm's sort of bent. This pushes out. There's a muscle here. So we can mimic that if we want to. Like if I want to give it like big forearms, then we would protrude them out quite a lot. Again, thinking of them as sort of 3D shapes. We've got that leading edge here that's going to be closest towards us, but it's going to also be heading back in space as well. Lost and found. Oh man, that's awesome. Thank you so much. It really means a lot. Glad to have you pop by. This is starting to get there somewhat. Now we've got some trickiness here with this leg, right? So let's see. This leg is going to be pushing back into space. I want her kind of to be hugging her like her legs come that far up that she's like wrapped around it and trying to like shoot at the thing. So we want to show. I want to show overlaps. Right, I want to clearly show that this arm is in front of this knee. All right, now we can do that with line. We can also do that with rendering later as well. For whatever reason, I'm in a big calf mode, so she's gonna have some big calves. want to show that this leg is in front of this other leg. Right. So maybe, I'm not worried about line work right now. Like this is still working, I'm in the working out phase. But even in the working out phase, I can sort of use some principles to push things, make things feel like they're in front of one another. I mean, I've watched Max Grecki, or Max Grec, depending on how you actually say it. His sketch is so clean. It just happens. It's just really like, really, really smooth. And I'd love to get to that place. But at the moment, I'm still a little bit messy. So this. Slowly coming together. Now, same thing with the foot. It's a complex box. All right, so if we imagine this is the back of the calf coming to the back of the foot. This is like the center line, let's say. We can follow that logic. It's going to be a tricky area as well. Like how would the pants pull? Yeah, I can figure that out. To reference. I also like to use like the seam of clothes to help me to show the perspective as well. So that and even the seam line here down the side can really help. Even on the inner leg, showing that seam line. One thing about the ankles as well that I think can really help sell them. If you look at the foot front on, let's say, right? So you got the big toe here, and you got the leg coming up. If you can show that this side is lower and this side is higher of the ankle, that can really help sell it as well, right? Because that's sort of how the basic shape of the ankle is. Even in perspective, again, if we were to do this in perspective, let's say draw this lower and higher, we could indicate it. How could we indicate it? What's a good way? Like even if we were to simplify this even more to like triangles, just like a pyramid sort of shape. And we've got the ankle here. Right, and let's say this is the outside of the foot. See how that just gives it a little bit more. It's just a little something. If that makes sense. So that's what I'm sort of thinking about. Here with these feet. So this is going to be inner, so this is going to be a little bit higher up. Again, coming back to those cylinders that we talked about before. Right? You can think of the little ankle nodules as like cylinders. Don't have to be that pronounced, but and I think also I've got this leg, this foot turned too far that way. It should be based on how side on this leg is. I think it should almost be a profile view of the foot. Alright. How are we looking? Now it's almost like as every layer that I'm layering on top, like every new layer here, I'll knock it back and I'll keep drawing on top and on top and on top. It usually gets clearer and clearer as I go. Well, that's the idea anyway. Sometimes it doesn't work. See, also just putting that line right here, it brings this hand and everything in front of all this in the back. but it makes it clearer. Hey, enough Des. Stop. Sorry, I've got a couple of dogs here. They're licking their paws. I don't know if you guys can hear them. Yeah, probably, Gal. I was thinking probably not all in one hit, but across multiple streams. This is like an experiment, like seeing how I go with sort of just live streaming different stuff. Like I don't want to make any promises that I'll finish this live, but that would be the goal. That would be pretty cool to sort of kick off the YouTube sort of stuff. And if also with this sort of stuff as well, like if anything's annoying me or it's like frustrating me, I'll just go to something that I like enjoy, right? So like say these suction cups. Great, I'd love to see all start to finish. Yeah, it'd be fun, I reckon. Also got to keep it entertaining as well. That is the goal. Snowfix Art. First time catching your stream. Is this your first stream? Not my first stream. I did one quite a long time ago on Twitch, but it's not something I do often. But I'm hoping to change that. So welcome. Even these suction cups, right? This is just the edge or the end of a cylinder. Right. That sort of dips in. You can even think of them as like headphone, like speakers or something like that. That makes sense. But big fan of your paintings. You should try to make long YouTube videos alongside the Insta shorts. That's the goal, man. That is the go. Snowfix. I have decided to enter the YouTube game, and it's going to be a whole big learning curve, a whole new algorithm to deal with, but it's going to be fun. So just having a check, sort of taking away the under sketch a little bit to see how I'm going. Can help. Again, I've got to figure out what she's going to wear, right? Now I'd like to have her wearing something that looks cool because she's jumped up. So maybe a jacket of some sort. Like if it was kind of like, I don't know. Don't want it to mess with his silhouette too much though. Snowfix art. I can paint characters in black and white, but when I try to do colors, I can't even paint basic forms without the colors looking muddy. What do you think is the best approach to go from grayscale painting to color and light? It's a tricky question without having a look at your work, because the muddy colors could be happening for a few different reasons. I would hesitate. I don't know. It's hard to say without seeing the values. But what I like to do is generally use like the color layer, just to kick things off over the top of the grayscale values. That can help get me started. And oftentimes not relying on the color mode, like the layer modes, to get me to where I want to get to with the color. Knowing that that I'll need to just straight up paint on top and use the layer modes kind of as a guide. So this is all just speculate, just like throwing ideas out there without taking a look at the work and the lighting setup and that kind of stuff. Let's push this hand in front a little bit more. All right, I might do a quick kind of tighter, a little bit tighter line work over the top of this one, just to get a little bit of a clearer idea of where I'm getting to. All right, let us begin. My canvas size gal is, what was it, 2160 width by 2700. Instagram portrait size. Got to remember as well these eyes. I'm not going to see these eyes because they're going to be covered by the VR headset. I'm actually restricting myself to just use a single layer so that I can understand color relationships better. Okay, interesting. Okay. I think that could be why that you're getting the muddier colors potentially. I am all for, if you can do it in one layer, do it in one layer. Like if it makes sense workflow wise. But yeah, it's a little hard to give my thoughts if I haven't seen the piece, unfortunately. Sorry. I don't want to go sending you off in the wrong direction. Alright, she's bald at the moment. I don't know if I'll keep her bald. We will see. It's more of just a test to see how my shapes are feeling. Just like we did with the kneecap sort of demo before. I'm using this working out to then throw nicer lines over the top, or cleaner lines, let's say. And it is 1:30 in the morning. Holy frick. That went really fast. Might have to wrap it up pretty soon. Are you streaming on Twitch as well? No, it's just straight to YouTube. Got to figure out how to do the multiple streams. Evan dear, nice, thank you. apologies, I'm very quiet. Just got a little bit into the zone there. Alright, I think I might finish up with throwing an indication of the VR helmet on. And I might call it an art, I reckon. Cassie Holland, how you doing? I always struggle with line art and line weight. Do you have any tips on improving that? I do. I've mentioned it a few times on this particular stream, but to go over again, I'm trying to think of, like, this is more rough line work, but thinking about the light direction, like if the light is coming from the top here, where will the shadows be, right? There'll be a shadow underneath here. There'll probably be a shadow underneath here. So having like the thicker lines really where the shadow's got to go is a nice little tip. And some of these lighter lines here, they're more like indication lines inside the forms, if that makes sense. Like they're not super, they're subtle, but they help show dimension, I guess, if that makes sense. Super high level, I know, but when I do the final line work, I'll sort of dive a little bit deeper into that. All right, let's throw this VR headset on. Or tweak the bloody eyelashes. What? No, the headset's going on. Let's throw it on. So I'm just doing this as a test, just from imagination at the moment. Won't be super accurate. Might not even be super accurate on the final as well, so. There's that. Cassie Helen, I see. So would you say lighting is more influential than depth when it comes to lines? I wouldn't say more influential. They work together, if that makes sense. So you see here, I've sort of like darkened, let's say, the lines of the objects that I want to sort of have come forward. Like the hand's got a little bit of a darker outline, and I've left like the leg behind here a little bit lighter as well. So it's kind of a real push and pull with the line weight, and trying to find that balance. Hey Ben, question. I'm so used to realistic drawing that I can't see how to simplify enough to make it a stylized cartoon. What do you think would help? Now that's a big, so that's Chris, aka Mr. Talent. Love the name. Thanks for popping past, and thank you for your question. So that's something that I've struggled with for a long time. Still just struggle sort of getting the stylized look, particularly when I'm using reference, right? And particularly when I'm trying to get a likeness of someone. That's when it sort of becomes particularly tricky. But this is a whole 4-hour talk that I could go into. What's one tip that can sort of help point you in the right direction? Let me think. Try and think about let's say if you're trying to do the face of someone, for example, try and break the features down. Like first try and get a style, like an idea of the style that you're trying to go after. All right. Then I would think next steps is, okay, of that style, try and break down some of the characteristics that you like about them. Like how do they solve the challenge of the eyes and the nose and the different features. Then from that, say you've got your sort of realistic reference. I would almost like write notes. Like if you're trying to get something similar to the reference, write notes on some of the characteristics of that person. All right. And then try and create those characteristics, or sort of invent those characteristics on a completely new kind of person, if that makes sense. Because I easily get stuck between, if I'm using realistic reference, that sort of stylistic no man's land, where I've taken like some of the realism of the eye and put it with like a real stylistic face, and it kind of tends to look a bit, it just doesn't quite look right. So kind of what I'm doing here, right? I'm breaking down what makes someone, well, so this is me jumping and having a scared face. This is a similar kind of sort of expression, I guess you could say. But I'm trying to take the essence of why this looks scared. The raised eyebrows, right? The eyes pointing down in the direction. I'm not actually getting the exact shape of my eyes here. I'm sort of filtering that through a stylized lens, and then coming out the other end and trying to interpret that in in a different way than the references, if that makes sense. It's a tricky thing just to try and condense down into a couple of sentences without doing like full explanations. But yeah, try and really separate yourself from the reference, understand the essence of what you want to get from the reference, and see what style and stylization that appeals to you, and see if you can map it to the reference without copying it one to one, just as an exercise to see how you go, if that makes sense. It's without going off on a full tangent in a demo. I hope that makes sense. Chris, aka Mr. Talent, again, love the name. That's such a great breakdown. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm glad that made sense, because sometimes some of this stuff makes sense in my head, but I'm unsure as if it's making sense to anyone else. All right, let's. I'm starting to fade right now. It's 1:49. Bloody hell, in the morning. These streams, though, are a lot of fun. So let's see if we can get that center line. Some sort of... what I can do as well is, because I won't be seeing that part of the face, I can just mask without losing the eyes and nose and everything. I'll kind of just mask that out for the time being. Just while I'm throwing the VR goggles on. I'll even do it to the sketch underneath. So she's in VR land, she's freaking out because there's a giant squid coming her way. Down here, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Why a giant squid? I don't know. No rhyme or reason. I should be thinking of interpreting instead of so much likeness from the reference. Yeah, that's the way I've sort of started to think about stylizing. What makes that person look like them, and see if you can put it through that stylized filter instead of going, okay, this is the shape of their eye, this is the shape of, like, the exact one-to-one shape of their nose and mouth. It's almost like, okay, if I was to kind of iron out the details of their mouth shape, what would that look like? And that's kind of what's going through my head when I'm doing stylization stuff as of late. Especially with likeness, because there's a bit of freedom with this, because this doesn't actually have to look like anyone. I mean, I'm using reference of myself and turning it into a completely different person. Will you complete the drawing until it's finished with colouring today? No, I won't. Waleed, unfortunately, because it's 1:54 a.m. in the morning, and I need to sleep. Are you going to record this video? Yep, I think YouTube automatically records it, but I've got my own recording as well that's going on in the background. So yes, this will be recorded. All right, we're getting somewhere. Now, one thing I like to do as well, without ruining my sleeping pattern even more, is to add thickness to sort of thinner materials that are usually pretty thin. Like there's this rubber sort of gasket kind of thing on the VR goggles right here. Giving that a bit of thickness can help sell it as like a volume that's on the head, if that makes sense. Let's add in this, wrap that to the back of the head. Bam. Alright. So how's this looking? Looking okay. Daniel Neds, how you doing, man? Did you have any formal art training at university, or are you self-taught? So I went to university for industrial design, and then I dropped out. So there's that, and then just a bunch of Googling, YouTubing, books, and practice, to be perfectly honest, like courses. And to be perfectly honest, like even if I went to like an art school and that kind of stuff, you still kind of have to be quote unquote self-taught in a way, because they're not going to hold your hand through figuring this stuff out. They might give you assignments, but I mean, you can also give yourself assignments as well. But yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I've been drawing on and off most of my life. And yeah, in the last sort of year and a bit, I decided to get a little bit more, put some more time into it and start posting online, and yeah, things sort of started to kick off, which has been pretty cool. Thanks so much for taking the time to stream this. Love the content. Will you be doing a live stream of your painting coloring process in the future? Joe Blodjet. How you doing, Joe? Yeah, that's the plan. To sort of do a stream, get used to doing stream, get the reps in, starting YouTube, and yeah, I'll definitely be doing some color, throwing some color on these guys. I reckon that'll be good fun. Are you working for any studios? Right now, no. Am I under NDA of a studio? I certainly am. And that all came from Instagram as well, which is pretty nuts. So when the time comes, I can talk about that, which is yeah, a kind of exciting thing. But was it my plan to work for studios or anything like that? No, it just sort of opportunities just came through Instagram. I have no no portfolio, no nothing. It's just all the Instagram stuff, which is pretty crazy. So Trimmer Trimakasi. You're welcome, Waleed. Joe Blajay, awesome. Thanks so much. My pleasure. It's crazy that it's late at night for you and 7 a.m. for me in California. I know, and I'm in the future, Chris. It's Saturday, 19th of November, my friend. I should tell you what's going on in the stock market. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. I actually like covering up the face. One, because the face takes time, and two, we're going to be doing this with the badass version of her as well. So here she's in VR, getting attacked. So I'm thinking also with the rendering of these squid tentacles, they're going to be kind of like holographic kind of squid tentacles to show that it's like in game. I think that could be a cool challenge. And then on the other one, it's going to be like full on, like realish looking, or as real as we want to sort of push it, I guess. So yeah, I'll take my time on these suction cups later. Just throw them in quickly. Cool. Alright, I reckon I'm done drawing for tonight. But I'll hang around for another 5-10 minutes to answer any questions, and yeah. Just sort of hang out, wind down. Let's save this. Alrighty. Let's have a look. What artists have inspired you, or are there any that you would recommend looking at? A bunch of them. An absolute bunch of them. Off the top of my head, Shape Design, Max Grecki, or Grec, again, not sure how to pronounce his name. Let's just whip up Instagram. This could be dangerous. Depending. Oh no, Instagram's pretty safe, I think. Like for streams, there's something to consider now. Can't just be throwing up any old web page. Let's whack open Instagram and let's shout out some of my inspirations, shall we? Okay. So just off the top of my head, let's move me out of the way. Cool. So at the top, off the top of my head, Max Grecki, this guy. I'm sure you guys, a lot of you guys have seen his work. Absolutely phenomenal. Love it. Can't get enough of it. Heavily inspired by his shape design. It's freaking awesome. Another one for line work, TB Choi. She is fan-bloody-tastic. Right. Such very, like, really strong line work. Right, really confident lines, which I absolutely love. Oh, who else? There's so many. A bunch of people. Let's have a look. Let's see who shows up in my bloody in my feed. And just because I go past these people doesn't mean that I don't like them either. So I've just got a few in mind. And this could go on forever. Let's not do this. Another line work. Hisham Habchi. Line work. Phenomenal. Just clean line work. All right. It's maximal sort of effect for minimal effort. Not effort, but line economy, I guess you could call it. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Also, Shiyun. I think this is it. Shiyun Kim. Maybe not. Maybe that's not him. Well, Shiyun Kim. I'm not sure if this is his profile. It's fake. Let's not follow this profile. Maybe this is top one, 83. Yep, looks like it. Yeah, this guy. He did a lot of the concepts for Big Hero 6, which is fantastic. So yeah, this is sort of the sort of stuff that's fascinating to me. So actually in production, seeing how we will draw over 3D models to say, okay, tweak this, think pointy ends with confident rhythmic curves for something / eyes. Like it's just like all these notes that he gave to the 3D modelers. Like it's fantastic, and like the animators. So yeah, there's a couple off the top of my head. I've got a bunch more that I'll share as we go in future streams. But have we got any more questions? Anyways, have a good stream, everyone. I've got to go eat some dinner. Have a good one. Thank you so much for popping past. Really appreciate it. Are there any drawing exercises you recommend to build line confidence? I guess just force yourself to draw, like hit that line where you want it, if that makes sense. Like I see a lot of this stuff as well. I haven't really done much of this myself, but, and I said I was going to stop drawing. Yeah, right. So like go point to point. And now we've got Christmas music again. Or do we? I don't know. So this sort of stuff, right? Even like reduce the opacity, like pressure opacity. So if we go into our brush settings, just to show you what I mean. Brush settings. So the transfer, right? Throw it all the way up to 100. There's no opacity in this. It's only like size. And then I just practice like Simple geometric shapes. Right, there's no scratchy lines there. It's just, it is what it is. It's kind of not fantastic, but you get the idea. All right, so I'd recommend doing that, just like almost giving yourself like a brush pen kind of thing. Like in real life, you'd probably get like a felt tip pen and just use only that. Like when you're trying to get more confident lines, because you can't, so there's only so scratchy you can get when you're trying to do like with this really like opaque sort of brush, because then it just gets really messy. It's almost it gives you an advantage to just sort of throw down the line, think about the line, analyze it. Okay, where's the next line going to go? That's another, I guess that's another thing as well with the confidence, is thinking about the next line. Because I used to always be thinking and sketching. There's nothing wrong with this, like, by the way, it's just an exercise, I guess, but to actually think about where this next line is going to go and where this next line is going to go, and really sort of, okay, take a step back and be like, all right, is this line going to add to the piece or to the thing I'm trying to draw, or detract from it? And then sort of go from there, if that makes sense. Daniel Neds, thanks for your time. My pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for popping past. It really means a lot. And look, I reckon that does me, everyone. I am fried. So hopefully in the next couple of days I might crack open the stream again. Give us a check on Twitter, Instagram, wherever I'm at. I'll post when I'm going live again. I'll probably give it a little bit more notice. This was kind of late notice, impromptu sort of thing. But yeah, had a lot of fun. And yeah, everyone have a good rest of your day, night, afternoons, wherever you are in the world. And I will see you in the next one. Catch ya. Thanks, Cassie.